r/OutOfTheLoop. World-renowned Ed Hussey says, "What's going on with Sandra Bullock right now? I'm so very lost on all of this. I'm not sure how to describe the situation other than it involves Sandra Bullock and some couple who makes YouTube videos who have done something bad. Apparently there's talks of her losing an Oscar for a movie The Blind Side, which I've never heard of." Newtown Mail says, answer, the movie The Blind Side is based on a true story about an affluent white couple that takes in a homeless black teen and helps him realize his potential as a student and football player. Recently it came out that the actual couple allegedly tricked the kid, Michael O'Hare, into thinking they adopted him when really he was signing documents to allow them conservatorship over him. Also, he was not a bad student and had already played football, unlike the movie depicts. Furthermore, the couple, the Tuahis, allegedly received a bunch of money from the movie rights and O'Hare saw none of it. Sandra Bullock played Leanne Tuahi, the wife and mother, in the movie, and won an Oscar for her performance. Since this negative light has been cast on the movie, there are some who, for some reason, think Bullock should lose her Oscar, even though she just portrayed the woman, and had nothing to do with the accusations. Edit, for further information regarding the Tuahi's defense. Read some of the replies to this comment. Direct Gus says, also her longtime partner passed away not even 2 weeks ago, so people really need to just leave her name out of this. Newtown Mail says, yes, agreed. I wanted to answer just the question asked and not be biased in my answer, so I left this out. Stringerble says, answer, nothing is going on with Sandra Bullock. This has nothing to do with her. Subscribe to better outlets if you're hearing otherwise. Watched for Auckland Rainbow Tickler, Bar says, her partner of the last almost 10 years just died. Backhead Pastor Putty says, love the username. Hate your answer. You didn't help me understand any facet of the issue or why she might even be involved. Darth_Nevitz says, answer, there is a lot of context missing. The Blind Side made the family involved fabulously wealthy. As celebrities and public speakers they became heroes of the conservative community. Even though they still own about a dozen fast food franchises, they are worth well over $300 million. While one would want to view the family as innocent with no financial incentives, the portrayal of O'Hare and themselves couldn't be defensible to a reasonable person. Given the circumstances, it's hard to view them as anything but a family business. If any defense could be made, it's that they didn't touch his football money. The movie is wildly offensively untrue. For one, O'Hare is presented as so poor he can't even afford a shirt, and so dim that only through around-the-clock tutoring can he pass basic classes. He also had no background in sports either, and only started football due to an aptitude test. r/OutOfTheLoop. Vangela_Decimo says, what's going on with Sam Harris? I haven't been keeping up with his activities for the past few years, but I'm getting many YouTube video recommendations about him and all the comments saying he was wrong about something. What was he wrong about? And what role does Brett play in this whole story? Example. Palsh7 says, answer, it sounds like the YouTube comments that you're seeing are probably saying things like Sam has Trump derangement syndrome, or that he owes Brett Weinstein an apology about COVID policy. Is this correct? If that is correct, then here is a short rundown of what you need to know. For those who have no idea who Sam is, he's a podcaster, author, and meditation app creator who has a PhD in neuroscience and a bachelor's in philosophy. He came to public prominence as an outspoken atheist who debated alongside Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens. 1. Sam Harris has been very anti-Trump. He recommended voting for both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, despite not liking them much. He has interviewed a lot of never-Trump conservatives about Trump. 2. Sam Harris was pro-vaccine, pro-mask, pro-lockdown from the beginning of the epidemic. Some of his interviews at that time Well, with physician and sociologist Nicholas Christakis, episodes 100. 156, 190, 222, 270. Physician and biologist Siddhartha Mukherjee, episodes 77, 98, 214, and cardiologist Eric Topol, 256. 162. 3. Evolutionary biologist Brett Weinstein, who used to be friends with Sam Harris, had a different position about COVID. He dedicated his podcast almost exclusively to vaccine hesitancy, and Sam Harris characterized it as alarmism and conspiracy theory. Brett was upset that Sam refused to debate him about this publicly. 4. Sam quit Twitter, and his friendship with Elon Musk has recently been referred to, by Sam, as a form of friendship. Elon Musk often says critical things about Sam on Twitter, such as saying that he has lost his mind on topics like Trump and COVID. 5. On one podcast that he went on this year, he said that he didn't care what was on Hunter Biden's laptop, and didn't care that liberal journalists ignored the story prior to the election. The way he said this was exaggerated, and, when clipped for distribution on Twitter, caused anti-Biden Twitter to dogpile along with people like Elon, Brett, and others. He put out a podcast to clarify that he doesn't support breaking the law or lying in order to stop Trump, but his critics didn't care. 6. On the topic of COVID, he has often made the point that he is worried about future pandemics in which the threat is more deadly. He made the point that most people would accept vaccines, lockdowns, masks, and much more, including forced vaccination, if the danger were much greater. Many anti-vaccine/anti-lockdown/anti-mask activists got mad about this. 7. I think the unspoken thing here is that, because Sam Harris has also criticized Democrats for wokeness from as far back as the Islamophobia debates, it's hard to find a lot of people on the left who are willing to publicly defend him when he's dogpiled by the Vangela_Decimo says. Thanks for the explanation, man. But what exactly was he wrong about? Like, why does everyone in the comment section keep implying that Sam has been proven wrong, and he is not admitting it? Like, what exactly are they talking at here? r/OutOfTheLoop. Both Blacksmith 7537 says. What's up with enrollment to American public schools declining? Why is it happening? Are public schools just getting worse overall? Is that all it is? I hated school as a kid because I got bullied constantly by teachers and students, more than likely because I have autism. I definitely don't blame people for not wanting their kids to go through that. Particular text says. Answer: in the US, public school has become a major hotbed for political agenda from affiliates of both parties. Additionally, homeschooling and other alternatives have been increasingly popular over the years, trendy even. Subsequently, many families are simply disengaging with public school. It's a complex, multifaceted issue that is also likely impacted by urban migration patterns. As schools are often funded primarily by property taxes, when people leave rural towns, the school funding goes down. When people leave the inner city to move towards suburbs, inner city school funding goes down. This is speculation, but the families most likely to jump on homeschooling as a trend and most financially capable of pursuing it are often the ones in suburbs. So the school funding moves to suburban schools, where it's needed the least and underutilized. Again, it's a convoluted problem. You could probably get 10 different responses and they would all be somewhat accurate, but I'd say the biggest factors are rising political concerns, increased usage of alternative schooling, and major financial drift. Angry_cucumber says. In the US, public school has become a major hotbed for political agenda from affiliates of both parties. Not really, it's one party, but if you say that in a top level post, mods threatened you. Comfortablibum says. Answer: as a current teacher and a parent, and the child of a teacher, and someone who went through public school, and someone who studied it in college, and someone who keeps up with the news on it, I can tell you there is no single answer to your question. Schools are a reflection of our society. Right now the US is politically polarized with huge financial inequalities. Schools reflect that. There have always been far-right political movements trying to control schools, and there have always been people on all sides of the spectrum who chose home or private school. The only change now is that there are more options for families to homeschool. If COVID proved anything, it's that school's main point is to provide daycare while the parents work. Now that so many people work from home, it's easier for them to keep their students home. You were not alone in having a rough time going through school. I got bullied and made fun of and had issues with teachers, but I think I gave it as good as I got it. r/OutOfTheLoop. Bad Badly says, what's going on with Linus Tech tips? A video got posted referencing something about a monoblock and GPU from Billet, and I guess a post Linux made. A video was posted about a reduction in content and people saying that he made an egregious error. I know he recently stepped down as SEER and was chief vision officer. Video in response to the controversy that I have no idea WTF they are talking about. Jack_of_all_offs says, answer, a two-man small business, Billet, lent their one and only prototype of a new version of water cooler to have LTT review it. It came with specific instructions on what video card was required to actually test it. LTT chose to use a different video card they had lying around, rather than using/buying the video card required in the instructions. This resulted in poor/failed testing, and the prototype was essentially dismissed as junk in the review. Afterwards, the cooler was supposed to be returned, as it was one of a kind. Instead, LTT auctioned/sold it, with a pretty shitty defense/deflection of we didn't profit though, it was a charity auction. After people got wind of this, and there was an obvious uproar, people demanded he make a statement on his podcast about how messed up the situation turned out for Billet. In a forum post, Linus essentially doubled down with his wording, insinuating that it wasn't that big of a deal, and that it was an accident. He said in the post that it isn't worth talking about on the podcast, and that his solution is to reimburse Billet for the prototype. For context and the gravity of selling Billet's tech, this isn't merely a water cooler. It's unique. It's essentially the life's work of the two guys at Billet, and having their prototype go into the public/unknown with a great chance for it to be ripped off and duplicated could absolutely ruin them. All because LTT didn't follow directions on testing it, resulting in them categorizing it as junk and losing track of it to the point of not returning it. Add in the recent community/media manager lady coming out about how toxic the work environment at LTT is. Linus is on a lot of people's shit list. Pegasus says, answer, a two-man small business, Billet, lent their one and only prototype of a new version of water cooler to have LTT review it. It came with specific instructions on what video card was required to actually test it. Actually, it's worse than that. Billet sent them both the water block and a 3090T. They misplaced the 3090T, then forced on a 4090 instead. It gets even worse. Billet emailed them multiple times asking for the return. Each time Linus Tech Tips responded and said yes, we will mail it back soon, before ultimately ignoring all of that and auctioning it for sale. But wait, there's more. After a third email from Billet, they told them, sorry, it got accidentally auctioned, but at least that's better than sitting on a shelf doing nothing. Yes, they had the audacity to reply that way after selling someone else's prototype at auction. Linus. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.